Hey guys, this is Ryan from Pixabyte, and welcome to Indie Interview. In case you're not familiar, this is the show where we talk to the developers behind some of the most interesting upcoming indie games. Mark, thanks for taking the time to be with us here today.
Hello, everybody.
So Mark, this is your first full game, correct?
Yeah, Crashtastic will be the first game that I release publicly.
That's great. And how did you get into game development in the first place?
You know, I've been programming a long time. I started probably around the age of 10, and I started doing a bunch of little games, none that I ever released. It really wasn't until I was in college where I started getting involved in the modding scene. I did that for a while, and then after college, I took a break from game development, kind of focused on my career for a while. And a few years ago, I got the itch to start up a new project, and that project's become Crashtastic.
That's great. So you mentioned you did a modding in the past. What sort of mods did you do, and what game was that for?
Yeah, I mean, it was for Quake 3, and I did a mod called Q3 Colors, which most people probably had never heard of. But basically, it was a pretty simple mod to Quake where you had randomized color changes. So red could kill blue, blue could kill green, green could kill red, and it just sort of randomly changes over time, so it kind of mixed up the fight. I also did one called Weapon Master, which basically was a super simple mod where everybody started with the BFG and then you work your way down to the gauntlet. So that was kind of a cool thing.
That sounds actually kind of fun. I was a big Instagib guy on. I think we played Orange Smoothie OCP or OSP, I think it was called, or something like that.
Yeah, I love Quake. I get on Quake Live every once in a while and do the Instagib. I do love my railgun.
Yeah. Okay, so Crashtastic is shaping up to be a very interesting looking game. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how it plays?
Sure. So Crashtastic, in a nutshell, is a physics game that centers around the idea of building fully destructible vehicles to help your test robot accomplish given goals in a variety of different levels. And so it essentially plays out, you get to see the level, and you're told what the objective is. You're taken into an editor where you can build a vehicle, after which you can add a variety of different parts to it, so it's fully customizable. You essentially the robot starts in a seat. You connect a bunch of pieces to it, including wheels and rockets, and then you can set how high you want the rocket power to be. When you're ready, you hit go, and if you put steerable wheels on the vehicle, you can control the vehicle. Otherwise, you get to watch the insanity that happens. Hopefully, you beat the level. If not, you can go back to the editor and adjust your vehicle or adjust the rocket speed until you can figure out a solution.
So, other than just building the vehicle, what else are you controlling to get through the levels?
Right. So currently, there's steerable wheels. I'm consider actually adding controllable rockets as well, because currently the way the rockets work is you give it essentially a speed, and those rockets will accelerate at that constant speed throughout the level. So currently, the way that you control the vehicle is by steerable wheels, and that might change, like I said, in the future.
Great. So where did you get the idea for this game?
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of ragdoll physics. I know every time I see a game with ragdolls, for some reason, it just always makes me laugh. And so when I was deciding on what to do for my project, I wanted to keep the scope small. So I wanted to avoid things that required, A, a lot of art, B, a lot of AI. And so physics was sort of a natural target for me. So physics was sort of the initial thought. And then I want to do something with ragdolls. I wanted to sort of be focused on ragdolls. And then I always loved destruction derby games, Burnout, those kind of games where there's lots of crashes and things like that. So I combined the idea of the ragdoll with building a vehicle and crashing all into one game, which became Crashtastic.
Awesome. Would you say there were any other games that inspired it or influenced it at all?
Sure. I don't think there's anything quite like Crashtastic, but there's two games that come to mind when I think about games that I saw before I decided on doing Crashtastic. And the two that come to mind are Truck Dismount, which I think a lot of people know from the indie community, and Flat Out, which I don't know if that many people know, but Flat Out is a racing game at its core, but there were some of the levels where you literally drive your kind, hit a button, and then your ragdoll character would fly out the windshield and you would try to accomplish a variety of different tasks. So those two games I think are probably, kind of inspired me in terms of the ragdoll and using the ragdoll as the core game component. But other than that, the building and everything else, I mean, it's just a kind of a combination of a variety of different games.
Yeah, I know I was a big Flat Out fan back in the day. Actually, I played a little bit of it at LAN parties, I would say. So that was always a fun time. So would you say you've ever played Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts? Because
You know,
that feels a
I've
lot
seen
like
it.
it.
I've seen it, but I never actually played it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I have heard people mention that as a game that's similar. Honestly, I haven't played it, and it sounds like from what I've seen, and I always meant to play it, but there's only so much time, right?
Yeah.
But it is one of those ones where my game has been compared to it, and hey, if you get compared to Banjo and Kazooie, I think that's a good thing.
No, absolutely. I just think it's a testament to the look and feel of what, at least what I've seen so far, and I think that's great. So how many different types of parts are going to be available for us to use while we're designing these vehicles?
Yeah, currently there's 8 different pieces, but as I said earlier, I am considering adding a few more before the release of the game.
Okay. And do you know any specific parts that you're going to be able to use for each level, such as you mentioned like rockets that you're going to need to use, or you just pull from the same group of items for every single level?
Yeah, so depending on the level, depending on the objectives, some objectives will require you to use only a specific number of pieces or a specific type of piece or a combination of pieces. Other levels will be fully open in terms of allowing you to use any number of pieces that you wish. And so it really depends on the level. That being said, for every single level in the game, I will allow you to play the level with unlimited pieces. So that way you can, play around in sort of more of a sandbox type environment and accomplish the goals in any way that you wish.
And is there any sort of progressive mode to this? So do you unlock more parts as the game progresses at all?
Yeah, so there's sort of going to be a few tutorial levels at the beginning of the game where you're going to be limited, and that's really to sort of help you guide into the interface. But I want to throw people into it as quickly as possible in terms of giving them access to everything that they can, so they can get to the fun of it. And the fun of it is building what you want. I don't want people to go through all this effort just to sit there and build. There's going to be people who just want to build a vehicle and drive it around. And there's going to be people who really want to figure out how to optimize your vehicle to get the best time and that kind of thing. I just don't want there to be a barrier to people having fun.
Absolutely. So what are some other examples of vehicle types that you can make aside from the standard car ones that you can do?
Sure. So I have a few testers that have been playing around with the game, and some of the stuff they've made is quite interesting. I mean, it ranges from two-wheel rocket cycles to rocket wheelchairs to somebody even made a catapult, and a chariot is another good example. So I mean, there's quite a lot of variety that you can create. I mean, you can create rear wheel vehicles where you control the vehicle from the back. You can create rocket sleds with literally no wheels. So I mean, it's really open ended.
And other than the vehicles that you can design, is there any sort of a level editor where you can make your own sort of I want to say like obstacle courses or anything like that, that people can design and maybe share that with other players at all?
Yeah. So this is by far the most common question. It's something I'd love to do at some point. It really becomes a matter of timing and priority. I'd love to be able to open it up. There's some technical challenges to making that happen. So I'm hoping before I release the game that I can have that, but unfortunately, no promises.
And another thing I noticed was that there's a load option on the vehicle creation screen.
Mhm.
Are you going to be able to load up any previously created vehicles at any time?
Yeah, so this is actually an interesting feature I haven't talked about publicly before, but you can save and load your vehicles. When you save them, you actually save them server side to the Crashtastic server, and so you can load them from anywhere. And the cool thing about that is that actually enables you to share your design with other people easily. So literally, you can essentially give somebody an ID to a given design, and they can type it in, and they can actually load your design and play around with it or add to it.
So around how many different levels can we expect to see in the full release?
I haven't come to a final determination on the exact number of levels, but there's going to be over 30, and more probably around upwards of 50 different levels.
And can you give us an example of what one of the more advanced courses is going to be like? What you're going to need to use to get past it?
Sure. One of the more advanced courses that will sound simple on the surface, but until you actually get a chance to play it, it isn't as simple as it sounds, which is what I call the S turn. And the S turn is exactly like it sounds. It's a turn that goes to the left and then goes to the right, and your goal of the level is to get to the exit. So the trick here is that you're only allowed rockets which accelerate at a constant speed. So while making that left-hand turn is fairly easy, you're accelerating through the full turn, so turning back to the right makes it extremely difficult for you to actually get to the exit in a timely manner. So this does require you to use not only the steerable wheels in order to turn the vehicle, but you really do need to build suspension on the car in order to successfully complete the level.
So far I've seen a pretty colorless, kind of clean look to the game. Is that what you're going to stick with, or are there going to be any sort of textures that you're going to bring in later in the game?
Yeah, so I mean the visuals of the game are definitely intentional. I wanted one of the things I did when I was deciding on what game to make was really just focus on, what could one individual pull off with the minimal amount of art. And there's essentially really only one texture in the whole game, which a lot of people don't realize. But it's very high quality baked lighting, which sort of gives it that clean look. And one of the big reasons for that was not only to reduce the amount of art effort for the game, but it's also to highlight the crashes, right? Because the crashes really are the magic of Crashtastic.
Great. I do remember there was another game I played last year that I loved. It was called Space Chem. It had that YouTube feature where you could directly upload anything that you did in the game to YouTube, and just saw that you have that exact same feature in the game. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that works?
Sure. So after every simulation run, you are given the option to actually load up a replay. So there's a replay viewer. In the replay viewer, you can scrub through the different the replay at different speeds and things like that. In addition to that, there's two buttons in there, which is one of them is save video locally as well as save video to YouTube. And what you do is you essentially set your camera, so the video will be based on where your camera is, and you hit save to YouTube. You fill out your YouTube information, the title, the description, the different tags, and then you're given an option for what sort of resolution that you want to, and that could be 1080p all the way down to 480p, I think is the lowest that I go. And then you hit record, and then it will render all the different frames and encode them, and then when it's done encoding, upload it directly to YouTube to your account.
So is the game constantly recording what you're doing, and you can just go back and replay things at any time?
Yeah, it records everything for the last simulation.
So just the very last simulation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the nice thing about that is that part of the fun of the game is sharing the crazy stuff that happens. That's the thing I love the most about ragdoll physics is the crazy crashes, the robot flying up and landing in funny positions and all that. And so this is one of those games where you're going to be doing all these different things. You're going to be building all these crazy vehicles. You're going to be crashing into things. A lot of stuff's going to happen, and sharing it is really half the fun.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. That's why I like that YouTube option in Space Chem, at least, just because it was really fun to be like, oh, I created this crazy world, and I really want some other people to see it. I think that's going to be a really great feature for you on that. So is there a limit to how long your clips are going to be?
So there's really no, I mean, most simulations are a few seconds long. There's really no limit to how long the recording can be.
That's great. So as of right now, how long has Crashtastic been in development for?
Yeah, so it's been a little over 2.5 years that I've been developing the game. I actually started developing my own engine. At the time, there was really no freely available or indie-friendly licenses for physics engines, and I really wasn't interested in building my own physics engine. And then, NVIDIA purchased Aegea, and made PhysX free. And so I started using that, and then I switched to Unity about a year ago, and that's definitely sped up my development time, and that's kind of where I am today.
And how close is the game looking to being finished at this point?
I hope to finish the game by the end of the year. Game development is one of those things that unfortunately is not an exact science, but while I'd like to finish it at the end of the year, I just can't guarantee it when it's done.
Are you doing any sort of pre-orders for the game, or any way for us to purchase it right now?
So not yet, but in the near future, and by near I mean weeks, I will be opening a pre-order alpha. I feel like the game is in a state where it's fully playable, it's fun, it's enjoyable, and I find myself at the point where I do need feedback from the community, both in terms of performance and as well as gathering some data in terms of the levels and helping me tune the game.
I definitely know I'm interested in trying it as soon as possible. So that I think that's going to be great to let the community try it out like that, and especially to give that pre-order bonus. And aside from a few things, you've pretty much been working on the game all by yourself, right?
That is correct.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge working on a game by yourself?
Yeah, I mean, really sort of two things. I mean, first is the time, right? When you're working on the game yourself, I mean, you're the marketing guy, you're the programmer, you're the artist, you're the sound guy. I mean, you're everything. So, and it's also about understanding your strengths and your weaknesses and farming out those things that you just can't do or can't do well enough in order to ship a game. So time, that's number one, the most difficult thing. The second thing is working in a silo. I mean, it's hard when you're working by yourself. You think things are good. You've been playing the game for a long time, and so getting external input becomes really critical. Now, I'm lucky because I have great friends and family who have helped me played the game. But one of the reasons I'm doing the pre-order alpha is that everybody I know, I think, has played the game now, and I really do need a fresh set of eyes looking at the game, providing feedback and helping me tune it for release.
And so, do we have an estimated release date? Obviously, the alpha should be coming out in the next few weeks, as you just said. And do you have a price tag on both the alpha and the full version once that's out?
Yeah, I haven't determined final pricing yet, or I should say I'm not quite ready to announce pricing yet. When I release the game, it will be pretty much standard indie pricing, and of course, the pre-order alpha will be cheaper than the released price.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys, and that brings us to the end of this episode. I'd like to thank Mark for taking the time to be here with us today. This is Ryan from Pixabite. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.